And joining me now is Georgia Republican Congressman Drew Ferguson. He is a member of the Budget and Transportation and Infrastructure Committees. Nice to have you, Congressman.
Well, good afternoon. Hope you're doing well today.
I'm doing well. Let's start here, sir, with two components of the House Republican tax bill coming under fire by Senate Republicans, limiting the mortgage interest deductions to the first $500,000 of debt, which applies only to new purchases, versus the current threshold of $1 million. And the other is after all the calculations are done, they're saying small businesses will pay a 35% tax rate, and big companies that file as C Corps would pay a 20% tax rate. Would you like to address that, sir?
Sure. Let's start with the small business component first, and I will say that as a former small business owner, I've looked at the tax code, and I think that it's going to be of tremendous benefit to those hundreds of thousands of small mom and pop companies and small businesses around the nation. And what the code does separate out wage income from business profits, and it will also allow small businesses to expense equipment immediately and have some level of interest deductibility, both of which are incredibly valuable to the competitiveness of small businesses and will allow them to grow their business and hire more employees and pay better wages. So we think it's a very, very solid plan. We recognize that some of those businesses are in fact more complex, and instead of using the 70-30 split that has been talked about, there's also a long form that accounts for some of those complexities. So I think both sides, I think both of those issues can be addressed.
What about housing?
Housing obviously is a very important feature in the American economy, and something that we believe in, all Americans believe in, for the middle class. And in the 3rd District of Georgia, I will tell you that mortgages under $500,000 represent the middle class of America. And we certainly want to encourage growth in home ownership, and doing it up to $500,000 is a very sound policy. Listen, the great benefit of all of this, though, is that we're going to grow our American economy. We are going to create more and more jobs. We're going to see increased productivity and increased wage growth. And I will tell you, all Americans want to see families doing better and being able to have the careers that they want because of a booming economy.
Well, meanwhile, though, Congressman, you've got Senate Mitch McConnell saying, listen, don't get too up in arms over the House bill, your bill, because the Senate Finance Committee will write its own bill. Do you know what's in the works for that bill? Is it a better tax plan? And even if you haven't seen it, does this stance render the House bill ineffective?
Well, I'll tell you this, the fact that both the House and the Senate are working really hard to make sure that the goals of the president are met in tax reform, which is real relief for the middle class and to create the most competitive business climate on the planet, I think are very positive signs, whether it's coming from the House or the Senate. So the fact that we are both working extremely hard to make sure that we get the best possible bill out there, I don't see that as a problem. I see that is a win for the American people.
And Congressman Ferguson, you serve on a budget committee. Are you concerned that the current tax plan on the table will balloon the budget deficit by $1.5 trillion over 10 years?
I am more concerned about mandatory spending than I am with the tax bill. I think the tax bill actually grows revenues and it grows the economy. Listen, I experienced this at the local level. We created the right tax and regulatory environment, and we saw business flock into our community, and we saw revenues grow while we continued to lower taxes. We know the same thing can happen in many, many communities around this nation as jobs come back to America. The number one issue that we've got to do, we have to grow our economy above the meager 2.2% GDP growth that we've seen for the last eight years, and we're seeing that happen now. So every time we see growth in the GDP, that is trillions of dollars in economic activity and revenue. The real challenge that we have are the real tough conversations on the mandatory spending, which are the real drivers of the deficit.
Well, here's a quick question, Congressman, before you leave, and it's a short answer, and I'm short on time. Will there be a tax plan bill on the president's Thanksgiving table or under his Christmas tree?
I think we get it out of the House by Thanksgiving, and I feel confident that get it to the president, and he'll be able to sign it for the American people before the end of the year. So I'm very confident in that.
Very confident, Congressman Ferguson. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday.